Hi, I'm Kevin with Springfield Leather. We're going to do a little bit of a demonstration on how to lace something that has a beginning and it gets spliced one time and then it has an end, but it doesn't join together where you began the lace. For instance, a little coin pocket like this or a card pocket would be a good example. So we start in the very first hole. I'm assuming that by now you have the function of a lacing needle and you know the basics of lacing. This is a double loop stitch style, and we've gone through the first hole and then we're going to go through the second hole. Simple enough. And I never like to lace with more than about a yard and a half of lace. As we pull this first stitch tight, we're going to lace over the top of this, and it's a little bit challenging. The next thing, of course, is to go underneath this little X that you just made, and we're going to pry it upwards a little bit so that X is sitting right on top of the two pieces of leather that we're lacing together. Then we're going to pull it up, it's kind of slow, and this time we're kind of going to lay that little piece of that little end, that loose end of lace down with our fingers, and then we're going to pull it up tight, just a little bit, sort of snug, not terribly tight. Looks a little bulky, and that's okay. After that, we go through the next hole, and now we're home free, kind of, sort of. We're going to pull it up snug, and you'll see where we've created a place where the laces cross over, and we're going to go under that. For those of you that want to know technical stuff, it's called the bite. I call it an X. Now it's a little sneaky to get under here because you've got this little tail that's in your way, but you have to figure it out. You got to go get underneath that thing, and once you do, life becomes much easier. You don't want to go underneath that little piece of lace that's laying down. It's not the end of the world, but it's better if you don't. So there you are. We've started, and we're going to go, and after we've gone through that X or that bite, then we're going to go through the next hole. And by the way, just some general tips. Now we're going to go through the X. It'll be easier this time. Through the hole, through the X, through the hole, through the X. Pretty simple. You notice I never ever let go of the needle, ever, not ever. The only time you let go of the needle is after it's in the hole. You have to kind of switch around to grab it. So now we're going through the hole, through the X. And while you're doing this, make sure that this lace effect that you're creating, keep it worked over so that it's laying on top of the two pieces of leather. That's how it covers your edge. Through the X, through the hole. Notice you always keep a hold of that needle, because if you don't, you're going to do something dumb and it's going to twist the lace and you'll have to take it out, and it's a pain in the rear. Okay, underneath the X, I'll show you something that you don't ever want to do. Pull it up tight, and here, the way that you do this correctly is you take this needle over in a big loop and you go through the next hole. If you do this, you don't make that big loop when you just poke it under, you will have twisted the lace without fail and caused yourself X amount of grief, which is ungood in my humble opinion. Turn it over, through the hole. Pull it up reasonably tight, turn it over, through the X. Turn it over, through the hole. Just in case you're interested, I'm the fastest double loop stitch lacer in the entire planet. And not that it matters. I'm going at about half speed right now. Through the X, through the hole, through the X, through the hole. And I guess as long as we're doing this, and as long as I don't have a whole bunch of distance to go, we'll just kind of cruise right along here and go around this corner. Now, when you go around a corner, some people like to go around the hole in front of the corner. They like to go through that twice. That's okay. I don't always do that, but I am going to go through this corner hole twice. And when you do that, now I'm going through it the second time. It's a little harder to pull, not much, but a little. I've made a second X, a little hard to see. When you lace, you need to go through just the X that you just created, not underneath the whole mess, just the one you just created. Then you pull it up tight and you keep on going. Now if you wanted to, you could go through that hole a third time. Personally, I don't think that's necessary. So I'm going to go on to the next hole past the corner. And now I'm going to go through that X, and your stitches will be just a little lengthy right here, but you pull that up snug and those stitches will just blend in happier than a cat staring at a bird. Through the hole, through the X, through the hole, through the X. Now we're almost halfway around this little gizmo, and we're going to have to splice our lace. I'd much rather splice than use a 4-mile piece of lace. And you can tell, you can use your fingers to do a lot with this lace. You probably noticed how mine very rarely twists, or at least it doesn't appear to twist. Well, that's because I've practiced this. I know how to use all those extra fingers. Let's see. Okay, we're just there. So now instead of going all the way through the leathers, we're going to go like this. Bring it right up between the leathers. I'm going to take my happy little scissors. I'm going to cut off so that I've got about a 1/4 inch sticking up. I'm going to fold it down right in between the leathers. I'm going to take this piece of lace out, hold on to the needle with my mouth. Then I'm going to cut myself a new piece of lace. And I'm going to cut that off to a point, sorta. It helps if you can see. I'm going to take my needle, open it up, cram my lace down inside it. Notice the technical terms, cram. Then I'm going to tap this shut. Tap, tap, tap. Okay, don't look. Now that the lace is in the needle, this time, since we're splicing, we're going to go down between the leathers and come out the hole that we would have come out if we never would have spliced. Think about that. We're just coming out the hole that we should have gone through if we never would have spliced. Now I've got extra lace here this time because I wanted to have plenty so that you can see how we end this. We pull it down through, hide that one, go through your X the way you should have, pull it up kind of tight, and here we go. Now we're off and running. Now we're going to come up to another happy little corner. You notice I use this thumb as I'm lacing to, when I get up here, I kind of keep it close to the lace. It keeps it from turning and twisting. So if you keep your fingers right up close to your work, you notice how that looks twisted, but when I pull on it, it untwists because the lace is riding against my thumb. That's just a happy little trick that normally we charge 38 bucks for, but I don't figure we're gonna get that on this video, so not a big deal. You can just send a check or a money order or whatever you'd like to do. Or you can just say nice things about us on the internet. We'll settle for that. Okay, now we're coming up to the corner again, so we'll just test your memory. Here we are, the hole right before the corner. Do we want to go through that twice? Well, it's up to you. If depending on your personality, go through it twice if you want. I am so incredibly lazy, it is not even funny. So I'm not going to. I am just going through the corner hole once, twice, and pull that. Now this time we've created another X. So we go underneath the X, only the X that we just created. Then We go on to the next hole, past the corner, using our fingers advantageously to keep this stupid 4-mile long piece of lace from twisting. You can see why using extra lace isn't all that great. But like I said, I wanted to make sure we had enough lace here to show you how to end this, since we're not splicing back into our lacing startup point. So keep my thumbs right up against there. We're just lacing at, well, in lacing terminology, this would be 1.6 miles per hour. And if you believe that, I have a bridge that I'd like to sell as well. Let's see, okay. Going on this. Now we've only got about 6 or 7 more holes to go. So by this time, you need to be paying attention to how much lace you really have left on your project. If it looks like you're going to be short or close, stop, splice, put in a new piece of lace, because nothing's worse than trying to end your lacing when you've only got 2 inches of lace left in that needle. What a pain. Okay, so now, and by the way, it helps if you can keep the amount of pressure the same with every stitch, or at least close. Keep this, remember, keep it turned so that it's right on top of your project, so it covers that edge up nicely, and then you'll be in good shape. Now, we get up to the last couple of holes. Actually, the last couple of holes are not important at all. It's that last stupid hole that's important. So here's the next to the last. Everything's normal right up to this point. I hope you can see this well. Now we go through the last hole. Then we go through the X. I let my lace twist. So we're going to pull it sneakily and untwist it. Now, you go through the last hole again. This kind of gives it an appearance that equals the other side. After this, we're going to go very slyly along the back edge. And this is a pain. It requires a little bit of persistence. And we're going to go under 3, maybe 4 of those laces with that needle. And again, this is kind of challenging, but once you do it, you'll be okay. Then you got to work, wiggle, twist, and do whatever. You might need to get yourself a little pair of pliers to pull that lace through. Now we're going to pull it up, and we're just going to pull it up nice and even, and snip it off, and there you go. We're done. Now you can, if you wish, depending on the look of your project, and everything's going to be different. It can vary depending on how far your holes are apart and how wide your lace is. Instead of going through that hole and then going behind the laces, we could have gone through that X and then gone behind the laces. You just have to experiment a little bit and see which looks better to you. But in the meantime, that works. Happy lacing. Bye.